Well, let me say a couple things about myself, as we get into this, because I've been a pastor for over 30 years in the Ardmore LaSalle Church of Christ. I've also been in business for myself for over 30 years, Bethel Business Machines. And I've also been in this community all my life, except for the time that I spent in the Air Force. And as I look at the challenges, the issues, both within our communities, within the African American community in particular, I look at the problems, and I can go out into the streets as a minister, and I can talk to people about changing their life. But the reality is that if you don't change the economics, even if you change a person spiritually, they're going to still go right back to the same thing, because economics is a major part of life. You can't, no matter what you do, it still comes back to the economics. And so one of my things is trying to find out how you can deal with the issues. Project Impact is a organization that does job readiness training. We do life skills training. We do some vocational training. And we have had a program that addressed issues, and we had as many as 150 felons at one time in our program. And so over this whole period of about 3 years, the number of felons that has gone through our program that we've worked with, and we know the economic, spiritual, relational, whether it's social or mental or whatever problems, we've just all those types of problems. But the main issue is dealing with poverty and dealing with the issues of family, friends, children, and dealing with the politics and the law, all of those sorts of things. But when you come down to the economics, we haven't been able to participate in economics the way that we should, especially when we talk about dealing within our own community, the African American community, and the poverty that's there. And so I did a lot of analysis on the economics and how do we get poor people. One of the ways to eliminate poverty is to create wealth. So how do you create wealth within a poor community? So I did some research. And if you look at the number of people in St. Joe County who are on food stamps, there's 43,000, approximately 43,000 people in St. Joe County who receive food stamp money, and on an average it's $135 per person, not per family, but per individual. And out of that 43,000 people who are on food stamps, it brings in approximately $6 million per month into St. Joe County. Almost $72 million a year. Now, out of that $72 million, it creates zero wealth for the people who are on food stamps. The people who spend that money, it creates no wealth for them. But it does create wealth for the people who own the stores that they purchase that food stamps, that they spend their food stamps in. That creates wealth for the owners. Well, one of our problems in the African American community is that we are consumers, and we're not producers, and we're not owners nearly to the extent that we should be. If we own some of the stores that we actually spent food stamp money in, if we own those stores, then we would begin to create wealth for ourselves. But since we don't own the stores, it doesn't create any wealth for us. But again, how do poor people own a store? How do I get you, as a poor person within an urban area that's impoverished, how do I get you to own a store? If you're going to follow the traditional path, somehow you've got to come up with resources, you've got to have the knowledge, you've got to have the skill and the will and all of those things to own a store. But we can do it the same way that everybody else does in investments. If a poor person owns stock in a store that they're purchasing or spending their food stamp money in a store that they own stock in, they begin to create wealth for themselves simply by owning the stock. But again, poor people don't own stock. They don't have money to buy stock. So the way Blakeonomics works is it says that what we will do is give you stock in a store that you can spend your food stamp, you can purchase with your food stamps from a store that you own shares of stock in. The profitability of that store is what causes the stock to have value, which then you are, every time you purchase from a store that you own stock in, you are creating wealth to some degree for yourself. I mean, that's the basic principle, and we could go into depth as to how that would work. Because if you can't buy stock, if I give you stock, the way that I give you stock is by you coming to a shareholders meeting. Each meeting that you come to, you would receive 5 shares of stock. Now, in that meeting and in those classes, we would say they're economic classes. If you come to that class, you receive 5 shares of stock. And in those classes, we talk about the economics and the community development and what happens within a community where you begin to eliminate poverty by creating wealth. And so you're talking about how these stores that you own now, how do they grow, what has to happen, and all those things in the classes. So each class you come, we would have up to 20 classes. You get 5 shares of stock, so you could have 100 shares of stock. The problem is this. Am I talking? No. The problem is you get 100 shares of stock. You can get up to 100 shares of stock by taking those classes. You can also, in order for us to be able to put up stores, we have to invest money. So we create a process that as you're learning the economics, you're also participating, because it's crucial that poor people participate in their own wealth creation. One way is if you're spending your food stamps in a store that you own stock in. A second way is if we take 10,000 poor people in a community, if each of those people, the shareholders, would spend $100 a month in a store or in a group of stores that they own, that's $1 million a month in total revenues that's going into that store. If you're profitable 10%, 20% of that store, you begin to create, you're creating wealth. In other words, because you're a shareholder, your stores are profitable. But how do we get the money to invest in the stores in the first place? Each shareholder, take 10,000 shareholders, if each shareholder would simply open up a savings account, and we've set it up so that you can do that with community-wide credit union. You open up a savings account and save $2 a week. $2. We believe that that's something that any person could do that would be a shareholder, could save at least $2 a week in their own personal savings account, community-wide credit union. You take 10,000 people who save $2 a week, which is $10 a month, or $100 in a year. 10,000 people saving $100 in 1 year is $1 million in deposits in a credit union. If we take those deposits and use them as collateral, we can borrow against that collateral to begin to put up stores. And we can borrow at an interest rate that is very much lower than what the standard interest rate would be, because you're collateralizing it with collateral. It's only $100, 10,000 people saving $100, $1 million a year. You have the resources to begin to put up stores. It's something that would work. It's inclusive. It allows people to participate on different levels. Each share, each dollar that you put into your savings account, you receive a share of stock. So you're not really buying stock. You're getting all of the shares that we give. It's called gift shares. So we're giving you a share of stock. It's encouraging you to save. It creates deposits that we can begin to. So it's you're buying from your store. You're also financing your own stores. It's a bottom up. It's where it's instead of Reaganomics, which was trickle down, Obamonomics, which is middle down, Blakeonomics is trickle up. It's the bottom up. It's coming the opposite way. It's an opportunity for poor people to participate at every level within that. And you can also hire people that are shareholders within the community. You're hiring, people are participating on various levels, and it becomes systemic in the sense that the system through Blakeonomics is wealth creation, poverty elimination, debt reduction. It does the things that need to be done within a community, as well as it's building a unity, a common unity. Economics, if you have a common interest in economics, if you are an owner and a producer rather than just a consumer, all of those things begin to change perspective. It creates hope. It changes people's attitude. It makes them a part of the community in a different way, a way that is much more effective than the current way that we're doing things. I don't know how much more you want me to.
Y'all have any questions? What's the time frame that we're steady putting $2 a week in, and before we can, basically, I'm not saying pull out, but start seeing profit?
Well, now, Blakeonomics it's set up to be a 10-year project. This is not a get-rich-quick type thing. It's over a 10-year period of time. The value of the stock, you got book value, you got market value, but the value of that stock is going to depend on the success of the stores. But we're putting it into a 10-year project so that we're not talking about getting rich overnight, some sort of a scheme and that sort of stuff, because that never works. You learn, you earn, you participate, and so what we're projecting, we would like to, over a 10-year period of time, we'd like to set up at least 25 stores within the community. So if we can do initially within the first couple of years, if we could put up 3 or 4 or 5 stores, that's the objective. So we're not sure exactly what sort of growth would take place, unless we're projecting it on the basis of, when we would have 10,000 shareholders. That's our goal, is to have 10,000 shareholders within the community, and we're looking to have 10,000 poor people. Not necessarily, we can have more than 10,000 shareholders, but we want 10,000 people who are in the community that are going to be purchasing from the stores. That establishes a loyalty, it establishes a product that so that we know that we can grow, and it's not contingent on outside. We're growing from the inside. So I would hope that within 10 years that we would have stock that would be near $10 a share. Could be less, could be more.
Okay. Hold that